Hello, JUSTJEM here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. Samplr Beauty is now available on Beauty Bay, the website, and I'm glad I held fire on buying these because I had them ready to go in my basket direct from Samplr, but when they arrived on Beauty Bay they had a few deals running, and basically it worked out cheaper to buy it from Beauty Bay than it did to buy it direct from Samplr. And today I am going to demo palette number 1 to you. So should I switch that off momentarily? Yeah, here we go. This is what all 4 palettes look like. So at first glance it's kind of difficult to tell the difference, but then there's a sticker on the front of each which tells you which palette it is. So there you see it. Palette number 1, and this one I would say is quite an autumnal colour story. That's what it looks like on the inside. There's a good chance that I'm going to end up ripping this out because I think that's going to irritate me, but I think it's just there as a bit of a protective sleeve for the shades inside. There are 25 pans in this magnetic palette. And if you're familiar with Glaminatrix Cosmetics Rich Romantic, Nearly Natural, Timeless Tones, it's the same size as the pans in there. So I want to say that's 22.5mm. I had wrongly assumed, because it's not stated on the website anywhere, that they were the 26mm pans, but given the price point and the fact that the palette on its own, like this, is £12, it makes sense that the pans would be smaller. They don't have names, they just have numbers. So I think you can just about make them out here. It's like little codes that correspond to the shades inside. And they do also have that on the back of each shade. I don't know if you'll be able to see that because it's pretty small. Probably you can just about make out that there's something on the back, but they are all labelled, so that's quite handy. E-05S is a bit of a mouthful, but at least you would know which palette each pan has come from if you do a bit of a mix and match or BYOP. I did get all 4 of the palettes and I got them as a bundle, or rather I should say I got each palette as a bundle. As I mentioned, the palette on its own is £12, but if you get the bundle it's £18, and it also includes this metal tool which just helps you sort of get in there. It's not magnetic itself, but it just helps you to get underneath the shades and lift them out a little bit more easily. And then you get this small magnetic palette here, like a mini travel palette that you can use, and this fits 8 shades in there, so I've tried that. And it also has a mirror inside, so I've still got the protective covering on there, and you know what that means. I get to do this 4 times, yay. But I won't show you it 4 times, that's a bit excessive. Nice, nice. And that's a very nice mirror actually, very nice mirror. Maybe I can use that, because obviously this doesn't come with a mirror. I mean, for £12 it would be pretty impressive if it did. I did film a look. So yesterday I did actually leave the house, so I did one look on both eyes, and I did film it, but my lighting was just not the one. So today I've closed my blinds. I don't know why I didn't do that yesterday. It's much better when I just close my blinds and put artificial light. If when I'm editing the footage of yesterday isn't horrendous, I might sort of just tag it on at the end along with the check-in that I did. I might just include the check-in either way, but it will be a bonus look at the end. And what I'll do today, I think, is the traditional one look on each eye. How do I want to start? The one I did yesterday was quite neutral with a bit of red. Perhaps today I can do a bit of a muted green look. Mostly going to be focusing on these 6 shades down here, I should think, but I might venture elsewhere, possibly maybe like a bit of brown in the crease. And yeah, let's see how we go. Refer number 1, I'm going to go into shade number 11 here, which is a brown. I will put it up in the corner because there's no shade names, and I guess I could show you. Do that. I think I'll start with this brown here, just through the crease. Let's try that. I had been eyeing these. I actually first saw Cole using these. And from my understanding, I don't know if you remember Samplr Beauty, but I think this is Samplr Beauty relaunched as Samplr, I believe. And after I saw Cole using them and I heard about the price point, I thought, oh, that could be quite handy actually. And it could be a good way to build up some shadows to do BYOPs going forward, because I've been thinking a lot about future makeup purchases, which I might save that for another video. Let's see how I go. But I have been thinking a lot about slowing down on purchases and how I want to use my shadows that I do have going forward. It's just a wash of brown on the lid. I think you can see the difference. It's just a little bit deeper. So that's with nothing on, and that's with that brown that I've just put on. So wiping that pigment off. Now, which shade of green? I mean, I could have just gone straight in with green in the crease, to be honest. I still haven't swatched these as of right now, but I will insert some swatches. In fact, I should really pause, and I'm going to insert the swatches now. I haven't done them at this point, but I'm inserting the swatches here. Palette 1 of Samplr Beauty, all swatched out on my arm, and palette 1 is called Energy. So that's 25 shades there, and there is a shade here. There is, but it's my skin tone, so you can't see it. So in case you're wondering, like, Jem, you've missed a bit, I haven't. It's just blended right in with my skin. I have to say that the matte formula here is one of the most disappointing matte formulas to swatch. Swatches only tell a very, very small part of the story, and I think if I'd swatched these before I had used them, I might have gone in with a very different impression. So I'm actually quite glad I didn't swatch them, because they perform overall much better than they swatch. I do have to say, so there are some shades that are a bit more sparkly and intense. This is more of a toppery shade, but it's got a lot of shimmer in there. But then you've got something like this gold here, which, I mean, I swatched that and I was wowed, but in comparison to all the other shades in here, that was a very standout shade. Swatched out, I mean, even in the pan you can see it's a beautiful colour story, and swatched out you can see that probably even more. But I have to say that swatches of the mattes was a bit patchy, and I did have to go over with several passes to get them to appear as they are. And I think that's reflected in how I felt that I had to pat more than blend to get the colours to show as they should be. So while I feel that swatches aren't always a good indicator of how a palette will perform overall, I think maybe they can give some clues as to how a palette is going to behave to a certain extent. So that's with my mini light on, and I've just switched the mini light off now so you can see it without that light. There we have it. Let's continue. Green shadow now. Let's try this matte here. So the brown I just used was this one, and then let's go into this matte here. Maybe I'll just hold them up rather than show the palette. And that's almost just going to go a little bit lower. I think I prefer my patty motion for these shadows rather than a blendy motion. I think patty works. That's not to say I won't go in and do a little bit of blending afterwards, but I think to lay it down, patting is definitely better. I might keep this quite simple actually. Once I've done this, I think I'll just put 2 shimmers on. Possibly 3, one as an inner corner. Let's see how we go on. Yeah, I'm not sure how well these would blend if you did just blend. Maybe I'll try that on this eye to see. But packing it on in the way that I'm doing seems to be working very well. Bit of a blending there. Okay. Let's try some shimmers now. And I am going to use some NYX today. I didn't use any yesterday because I'm curious. So now what I'm trying to do is whenever I try a new shadow is the first time I use it, I use nothing. See how long it lasts. Then I try NYX, same thing. And then I'll try like a gel type adhesive for the shimmers. Let's go into the shimmers. And from what I recall from yesterday, the shimmers that I tried were quite creamy, actually, quite creamy and smooth. They didn't necessarily have much intensity, but I'm wondering if that's because I didn't use a base. So I'm very curious today to see how shimmery and sparkly they look now that I have a NYX glitter primer down. So I'm going to go into the deep green shimmer. And I'll hold that up. So I'm going to go into this deep green shimmer here, and then I think I might use all 3 of those shimmers. So this deep green, then this one, then maybe that on the inner corner. Definitely these 2, and then I'll figure out an inner corner. It feels very smooth, but it also feels like it's going to be more satiny than shimmery. Yeah, so it doesn't have like super intensity. I'd say that's not much more impressive than when I used nothing, to be honest. A tiny bit more. It's one of those things where I wouldn't feel like I was losing out on intensity by not using a sticky adhesive. And then that lighter green, same consistency. More satiny, but that's pretty. I think that's what from what I'm finding already, the deeper shimmers in here don't have as much sparkle, which I guess sometimes that is the case. The lighter shimmers just look better, I think. They pop more, but then I guess they would because they're lighter. But this is quite a nice combo. And I'll just get a flat brush into that lighter green shimmer. Tidy / sharpen it up a little bit. It's quite nice actually. It's funny actually. It does somewhat remind me of the subtlety of the Louis Vuitton formula. That's what it reminds me of. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something I could perhaps do with the green Louis Vuitton quad, which is crazy to me because that's £190 and that's for 4 shades, and this is £12 for 25. And I was saying, you know, one of the reasons I was tempted is because I don't have that sort of smooth, or I don't have much of that smooth, subtle formula. And, you know, if I'm going to get it from a £12 palette like this, am I going to spend 190? See, that's nice. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm probably not going to do a full face of makeup today because I'm leaning away from doing a full-on face. Mainly because I hate washing my face at the end of the day. So I don't know that I want to do that, but I just have the Danessa Myricks Nude Fix 9 on. So I'm picking up a pencil brush and I'm going into that same green matte. I'm going to drag that along the bottom here. I'm not getting like super intense pigment. Like, if you like your Blend Bunny mattes, you might be disappointed in these mattes. I'm just going to say that up front. For the inner corner, I'm gonna use this one up top. And I think it's going to be the purples now, isn't it? Because I've done a bit of red, I've done a bit of green. And the main colour left that I haven't used are the purples, so let's do that. Out of curiosity, I might end up throwing the kitchen sink at this a bit, but I just want to see how they all appear on my skin tone. So I'm going to start with the lightest purple, and that's this one right here. It's possibly deeper than I thought that would come out on me, actually. Nice shade of purple. Now I'm wondering, actually, because there's different. So there's two cool purples and there's two warm purples. I've just used one of the warmer purples, so I think you can see there that those two are a bit warmer and these two are a bit cooler. So maybe I will just stick to the warm purples this time, but I might possibly go into this purple here to deepen things up. Let's see how we go. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see the difference in depth there. I wasn't sure at first, but you can. Yeah, I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to use that deep, cool-toned purple to deepen things up in the V. Did I just go into the... I just went into the lighter one again. Ugh, numpty. Or maybe I'll lean into that, or have the light purple on the inside and the deeper one on the outside. And I know I was supposed to be doing blendy motions on this side, but I just don't think that these are blendy shadows, at least not for me. I mean, they are blending, but they blend better when you pat. Refer 14, and I'm using that deep purple in the corner now. I also wonder if this would be one that's better if you do start deeper. It's weird, on camera it looks kind of odd. I don't know if that's my mistake popping through there, that I accidentally went into the wrong colour, but in person that looks alright, but on the monitor it does look a bit funny. I've got a Zoeva 227 here, it's stained but it's clean. There we go, I think that's better. It was just looking a bit odd. NYX Glitter Primer time. Okay, so there's 3 shimmers I'm leaning towards here. One for definite, so definitely that one on the outside. And then I'm not sure between the one directly underneath and this one. That's like the Louis Vuitton shade. That's interesting. So that's going to go on the outside, that's going to be on the inside, and that's going to be the inner corner. I do like these lighter shimmers. The deeper ones, they lack a bit of something, but the lighter ones are very pretty. And then a nice flat brush, and I'm going to go into both those shimmers again just to tidy things up. a smaller brush just to be able to go back into that deep purple and run it underneath. I might just use my Refa 13, dip that into one of the other purples and just smudge it out a little bit. In a corner, I might spray this. Yeah, I'm going to spray that. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to put liner and mascara on off camera and maybe a bit of gloss, and then I'll come back. Both looks finished, just with some eyeliner and mascara. And here we have the green side and the purple side. Trust me to do a green and a purple. Like, if there'd been blue in there, the third look would be blue. Just would. There we have it. Do you have a favourite eye? I like green and purple, so it stands to reason I would like them both. I like them for a different reason. That's definitely more bold and vibrant, but that's quite nice for like maybe an everyday look. As I say, I've just finished off with liner and mascara, and I've just thrown on a gloss just because, and I haven't put anything else on my face, so if I've got giant bags on my eyes, it's because I haven't concealed them. It's 9:58 AM. I'm going to try to keep this on for a little while because I just want to monitor the creasing basically and see how the shadows hold up over the NYX glitter primer. So I'm going to go about my day for a few hours and then I'll check in. I'm not going to be able to wear it all day because I want to film more stuff, but I'll try and keep it on for a good amount of time, maybe 6 hours. Let's see how we get on. Yeah, see you later. I'm checking in. It's been just over 5 hours because it is now 3:10. I think this is long enough to give a good indication of how much creasing I'm likely to get. So I'll zoom you right in so you can have a look. So I'll turn the lighting up a little bit more as well so that you can see. So for the time being, I'm just sort of widening my lids so you can see. I will close them in a moment. I think I'd refer to that more as intense settling rather than creasing. So there's no obvious gapping. Like sometimes when I get creasing, there's just nothing left in that area. Like the oils have peeked through, it's completely broken it down and it just looks horrific. I'd say that's more almost settled into the lines of my lid. And you can let me know what you think as well. I'm just looking in this mirror here. Yeah, I would say so. And it's definitely more apparent on this eye where I've got a double fold. You can see it there, 2 distinct lines on that side. I've centered up and here I am with my eyes closed so you can see what it looks like. And I mean, no one's walking around with their eyes closed, and to be honest, if anyone's up close enough to be able to see this level of creasing, unless they're a member of your family or a loved one, they should have no business being that close to you, to be perfectly honest. I don't think that's too bad, and I don't think that this is going to get any worse than this. I think this is the level it will stay at, but I'll wear it again, you know, I'll do one of my intense longevity texts where I'm wearing it for 12 to 14 hours and I will update in some way whether or not I get more severe creasing than this. So there we have it, 1 look on each eye plus a mini longevity test. Obviously I try to do them a bit longer, but I think 5 hours is a pretty good indication, and I will report back once I use this palette on a daily basis and I use the formulas. I would imagine that the formula is going to be across the same across the board. I might sort of lump them all together unless, as I'm using palettes 2, 3 and 4, I discover different formulas, or I experience something a bit different. The matte shades, for example, they don't swatch the best, and they definitely blend better when you pat as opposed to blend. Some of them are quite, like, there's a yellow in here which I just don't think I'm ever going to use that, because it's just super patchy and I don't know if that would ever work on me. But we'll see. I don't know. It could perform very differently on the eye when I pack it on. Plus I could also use a yellow base to maybe help enhance it. You never know. I'm quite looking forward actually to using the rest of the palettes and exploring the different colour stories. So as I say, that one's called Energy. Next I'll do number 2, which is called Mood. Number 3 is called Neon Grunge, and then number 4, that's the neutral one, and that's called Undone. I'll film with each one over a period of time. I'll see how I go. I don't know when I'll be able to get them all up, but at least you've hopefully got a good idea of the formula, hopefully. Is it the best formula ever tried? No. Not the mattes nor the shimmers. It's not going to compare to Blend Bunny mattes, and it's not going to compare to Adept shimmers. But for £12, I was not expecting them to be able to compete with those kinds of formulas. For £12, they're pretty decent. I'd be intrigued to know how a beginner would get on. So if you're used to those blendy motions, I think that you'd experience patchiness, and I don't know if you would get a good blend. So anyone who's maybe not used to applying eyeshadow, which I obviously am at this point, I still don't claim to be the best. I'm still learning. There's always ways that I can improve, especially when it comes to being a bit more creative. But to get the kind of looks that I do like and I'm comfortable with, I think I know how to sort of work with different shadows. So these, I'd say, were not that they were tricky, it's just knowing how to adapt if the way you might be used to isn't working. If you've tried these, let me know what your experience is, and if you pick them up after the fact and maybe you're watching this video a bit later, I'd be intrigued to know how you get on with the formula. If I were to compare it, say, to Beauty Bay shadows, I prefer Beauty Bay. I prefer the formula in Beauty Bay shadows. I think they're easier to work with, and on the whole, the shimmers are better. I have just picked up the new Beauty Bay palette, so that's the Dark Lights one, and I'm very curious to know how the shimmers in that perform, because I did get creasing with Desert Haze, but when I filmed with Wilderness, for example, more recently, and I'm thinking about Celestial Charm and what's the other one that I used recently? It's gone out of my head, but I don't get any creasing with those, so I'll be very curious to know what happens with Dark Lights. But if I had to pick a formula I prefer when I'm looking at affordable options, based on palette number 1, Beauty Bay for me. Let me see if my opinion changes. Maybe as I use them more, maybe it's a case of getting used to it, I could change my mind, but at the moment I would give the edge to Beauty Bay over Samplr Beauty. Yeah. But watch this space. That's number 1 down. 2, 3, 4 still to come. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope that you found this video useful as well as enjoyable, and I also hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye. And I'm going to put that sort of through my crease. I may well deepen it up with this brown, but let's see what this one looks like on me first. Yeah, so that's precisely matching my skin tone. I'm trying to do this in a way where you can see me, but I can see the mirror. Maybe my mirror's too big actually, I don't know. I am going to go into that deeper shade now just to see what that looks like. Okay, yeah, I can see that it's deeper there. I've used the lighter brown as a bit of a wash on the crease, and then I've used the deeper brown mostly on the outside, but I have carried it in a little bit. And I'm picking up my Refer 13. Probably could have, maybe if I could find my 14, but I can't see, so let's not rummage around too much to try and find that. And there's a red shade which is next to the brown, the deep brown, and I'm just curious if I pop that in the outer V type area, what that's going to look like. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm patting it, I'm kind of patting it on to apply, and then I'll sort of blend. Mind you, just doing this patting motion seems to be blending it pretty well. This red is a little on the patchy side, but that can happen with reds. I'd say that's the effect I was after. I wanted red, but not super intense, so that's why I wanted to lay down the brown first and then just kind of add the red over the top. So that's just quite a nice diffused, deep red now. And now for some shimmers. There's a very true gold in here. That's the red that I've used right here. And then, so that's the very true gold. So that could go quite well with red. There's this sort of pale bronze. Would I describe that as like a pale bronze? That could be quite nice. Maybe with that true gold towards the inside. Let's try that combo. Oh, that feels quite creamy. So this is the bronze one. Now the true gold shade, and again that's very creamy to the touch. Okay, this is definitely more intense here. And then I'm just going to tidy this up with a flat brush, probably my Refer number 2. This true gold is nice, it's intense, it's sparkly. So Waver 230, which is my Luxe pencil brush. And do I want the red or the brown? I might do a mixture of the red and brown. Maybe just the red actually. Inner corner, this shimmer right here that's in with the greens. So it would go really well with the greens, but I think it could work nicely as an inner corner highlight too. So far, all the shimmers that I have shoved my fingers into are creamy to the touch. Yeah, I'm just doing my eyes today. I think I might put on a lip gloss, and that's about all I feel like doing today. This is the finished look up close, so just a really sort of quick, simple look to throw on and run out the door. They're not the most intense, amazing shimmers I've ever come across, but they're £12 for 25 shades, so for £12 I'm pretty impressed, to be fair. Especially that true gold. That true gold is nice. It's really pretty. And I will come back with more looks, and I think I'll try and film it in the evening when I can control the lighting, because this has been abysmal. And I don't even know if this is going to make the video, to be perfectly honest. It probably won't. But there we have it.